Hey, welcome back to you. In today's video, going to have a look at the weather through the first bit of March today, taking us through the first week or two. We may be seeing signs that high pressure going to build over Scandinavia and pull winds into the east. Now, this is a long way off, and I'm not at all confident about it. We've had these hints on and off through the winter, never come to much. We get through to March. Of course, the jet stream now beginning to ease off as we get in towards the spring. So easterly winds are relatively common through the spring months, but March tends to be a little bit early. In fact, tend to get more in April and May, actually. But yeah, the hints are there. We'll have a look at the charts in a moment. If this EC does come off, it could be quite cold, and it could give us some wintry conditions by the second week of March. But let's see how things develop with that one. Now, before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on most of the pages at GasOffice.com. Have a browse through the widgets. And if there's any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go off and read those articles. And it's a paying website, really, so let me sit here and talk to you via GasRugby. So thanks so much for getting involved. And thanks for doing that. Right, just starting off with the central England temperature from Hadley for February so far, coming towards the end of the month. Of course, this is provisional up to the 22nd of February. In fact, they just updated, and in fact it has. So up to the 23rd, this is provisional to the 23rd of February. And the central England temperature comes out at 3.7 so far. I say this is provisional, it's not the final number, which is bang on average for this time of the year. It's an anomaly of 0.0, so we're right where we should be in terms of the 30-year average. Actually, that could be a little bit higher than you would expect. Once you get to the end of it, that could be corrected downwards a little bit. Normally is. So I think this February is going to be around average. It could even come out ever so slightly under average if there's a downwards correction, but it won't be by much, only by a few tenths of a degree if that happens. So overall, a very average sort of February. And that follows on from a very average January, of course. January came out at 4.4, which was an anomaly of just 0.6 degrees above average. So that wasn't deviating far from normal either. A little bit above average, but nothing particularly exciting. Looks like February's going to be very similar, a little bit cooler. Actually, February probably coming out as the coolest month of the winter, although not a cold month by any stretch of the imagination. But it's certainly a lot cooler than it was this time last year, when you remember we was having a very warm temperatures through the winter months, warm time of year, and that carried on right through most of 2014. Of course, 2015 already looking like a significantly cooler month, cooler year compared to last year. Of course, we'll keep monitoring that and see how it goes. Right, these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next 8 to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the left, the GFS is over on the right, and 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is now in the atmosphere with high pressure, low pressure being moved around by a jet stream running above. Mean flow charts for 8 to 10 days time, so this takes us up to around the 6th of March, so going through towards the end of the first week of the month. Now, as I was explaining yesterday, a little bit of a change coming up for parts of America early on in March. Looks like we're going to get a bit of a ridge developing down in the southeast. I'm not sure this is going to last all that long. Really, already this very deep trough is coming out of the northwest, out of Canada, and putting that ridge under pressure. So I think quite quickly we're probably going to find this ridge collapsing and allowing this cold trough to come through and bring more bitterly cold weather in towards the east of the states. I don't see that milder sort of interlude with this ridge lasting all that long. But for a few days anyway, it should moderate a little bit in America as we get through to the start of March. Now, for us, what's interesting is this big area of above average height setting up over Scandinavia and stretching back up in towards the Arctic. The ECMWF and the GFS have both got this big area of high pressure ridging down in towards Scandinavia. That's quite a significant area of above average heights, and that's going to try and get the winds into the east, I think, as we go through into March. Now, we've got quite a strong jet stream still coming across the Atlantic with both the ECMWF and the GFS. They show the tight lines there, so the jet stream is coming through with a deep trough of low pressure still up there around Greenland. The jet stream comes up against that ridge and sort of looks like it's going to split a little bit, with some of the energy going to the north and some going down to the south. So a bit of a split taking place in the jet stream, and it's just really going to be whether we can get this ridge here sitting to the south through the Azores and to the southwest of the country, whether we can get that up in towards the Scandinavian high. If we can, then we could turn the winds into the east, but if we can't do it, we're probably going to keep the jet stream coming through and just keep the winds in off the Atlantic. So if I just clear all that away, I can show you the difference between the ECMWF and the GFS. The ECMWF keeps the gap open, really, and keeps low pressure coming through the Atlantic, whereas the GFS wants to ridge up this high pressure from the south and the southwest and eventually ridge it into that high pressure sitting to the northeast. And if these two high pressure areas do get together, then that could open the door towards the easterly flows to start to push in. It is cold enough still at this time of year. It is cold enough to get wintry conditions on those easterly winds, so we've got to keep an eye on it, how that plays out. If you have a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation on something, I was talking about this yesterday, we're going to be seeing a bit of a drying trend as we go through into March. Let's start off with the temperatures first of all. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average. We're up and down with the zonal sine wave through to the start of March anyway. So this is the 1st of March just here, and we've got the typical warm and cold, warm and cold zonal sine wave coming through. As we go through into the first week of March, a more definitive drop in the temperature just here, so it turns a little bit colder for a few days from around the 2nd to the 5th of March, and then lots of scatter as we go off in towards the end of the first week on into the second week. Got lots and lots of scatter taking place here. Some of the members are quite cold. In fact, they do go almost down to -10 to 850 HPA, 850 millibars. They're probably easterly winds coming in, those ones that go cold, but they don't all go cold, and there are some significantly milder members of the ensemble as well. So as we get through to the end of the first week of March, on into the second week, it really is a case of take your pick as to what happens, actually. We could get winds in from the east, or we could keep the Atlantic winds coming through. Very uncertain about where that is going at this stage. There is a drying trend, though, so as we go through the end of the first week and on into the second week of March, I think we can see that the precipitation spikes are easing off here compared to the first part of the chart, which brings through quite a lot of rainfall, quite a lot of precipitation, definitely drier in this part of the chart compared to this part of the chart. So I think high pressure will be getting more influential as we go through into March. Whether it gets to a position to deliver cold weather is what I'm uncertain about at the moment. The temperature anomaly from the 24th of February to the 4th of March coming out around average, nothing particularly exciting there. The rainfall anomaly, precipitation anomaly, is going to be coming out a little bit wetter than average, so average to a bit wetter than average. Going to be quite an unsettled week going through, and then we'll probably, beyond the 4th of March, get back to drying trend. United States, very cold still for the coming week, 24th to the 4th of March. I think that will moderate a bit in the east and the southeast, but notice even in the west now, the anomalies have gone cold. Been a very warm winter in the west with a ridge of high pressure, forcing that trough down into the east. That's delivered all of that cold weather. Now the cold is evenly spread, really. The cold anomaly is backing right the way through into the West America, and I do think the United States is probably going to be in for a very cold March, actually. So having a look at the generic charts, here's the GFS for a week's time. This is Tuesday, the 3rd of March. We're bringing this westerly through across the Atlantic. That's a cold westerly. Could be bringing wintry showers into the north and the west of the country. As we go through into the 4th of March, we start to get this little bit of a ridge developing down to the south. That starts to push northwards, so settle things down. Going through to day 10, Friday the 6th of March, you can see that high pressure becoming more influential there. and is starting to try and ridge up towards Scandinavia. Now, I don't normally go out beyond daytime, but I'll just quickly do it for this morning's update. And as we go through to Saturday the 7th, we can see that high pressure then is setting up excuse me, over Scandinavia at 1,035 millibars. The heights are all pushing up towards the northeast, and by the time you get through to Saturday the 8th, we're in an easterly flow. High pressure set up over Scandinavia, pulling the winds in from the east. Quite a cold easterly wind coming in with that, and that just carries on then to the end of the chart. So this is Tuesday the 10th with the easterly wind continuing, and as far as we can go with the GFS, we remain in that easterly, and almost hints of retrogression there by the end of the GFS this morning, midnight run of the GFS, Thursday the 12th of March. We are setting up heights around Iceland and Greenland, very interestingly. Now, this is a very long way off. It's right at the extended range of the GFS, so don't at all take that seriously. But it's just an indication. Once you get into this easterly, then things can progress. The difficult part for us is always getting into the block pattern. It's always getting into the easterly. Once you get into it, then things can start to develop, as we saw from March 2013, actually, and December 2010. Once you lock in the cold pattern, then things can progress, and the pattern can get more and more extreme, really, with time. But the difficult part is always getting it into place in the first place, if you see what I mean, because very often things go wrong as these ridges try to get up to Scandinavia. You often get some sort of short wave or little disturbance coming through, but just stops the high pressure getting to where it wants to go. So the difficult part is always getting into the block pattern. Once you get there, then things can get very interesting. But this is what this morning's GFS is showing anyway. By the end of the run, we begin to set up high pressure around Greenland and Iceland, and very close to opening the doors to really cold, certainly for the time of year, really cold northerly to northeasterly winds. The ECMWF is not as dramatic as that, but it is sort of going in the same type direction. So as we go through to a week away, Tuesday the 3rd of March, bring that cold westerly in across the country. Then we start to ridge the high pressure up from the south. We go through to the middle of next week, and then beyond that we're trying to form a ridge up to the northeast. So the high pressure's down across some parts of England and France, and there's also high pressure ridging over Scandinavia. We get through to day 10, Friday the 6th of March, and yes, we've got high pressure there across the UK, another high pressure up over Scandinavia. These two areas of high pressure, similar to the GFS, are trying to form a ridge into one another. If they pull it off, then similar to the GFS, we'll be able to open the door to that easterly wind. But, and it's always a big but, as I say, the difficulty with this is getting the pattern in place in the first place. So we've got this area of low pressure just here. If that was to run through, then it would stop that ridge being formed, and the whole thing wouldn't come off. We just keep the Atlantic winds coming through. So that's why it's always difficult. I've probably gone on a bit longer than I expected to, but I want to explain why it's always difficult to get these easterly winds into place. At any time of year, they become more probable as you get through the spring in towards April and May, because the Atlantic is easing down. So these little features that can complicate the issue, can stop the high pressure ridges, they become less common as you get through into April and May, as the jet stream and everything else starts to calm down in the Atlantic. But of course, by the time you get through to May, you're not going to get a cold easterly wind. But I digress with that. The general idea is that we're going to be cold to the start of next week and unsettled with westerly winds. We're going to try and build a ridge up from the south, going to try, I think, to get it up to Scandinavia. Whether we do or not will be the big question. If we do, we could open the door to cold easterly winds by the time we get through to the second week of March. It's not too late to get cold easterlies, and it's not too late to get snow from the east. So we've got to watch out for where this is going. Obviously, I'll be keeping you updated over the next few days. But that's all now. Hope that video interesting. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.